Hello and welcome to this special edition of France 24's Campaign Chronicles. This week we're at the Paris Agricultural Show. As well as the smell of manure, there's the whiff of political rivalry in the air. This is where two worlds collide. French politicians on the campaign trail, meeting thousands of farmers, their animals and of course, countless voters. Coming up in the show, we'll take a look at exactly why nearly every presidential wannabe has come to admire the livestock. We'll have a chat with a farmer who's fed up seeing big retailers profit from all his hard work. Indeed, he's so frustrated he's been forced to tear up his crop. And it may make a nice photo opportunity. But what does the farming sector want from the parade of politicians? First, though, take a look at the crowd behind me in the middle of that herd of journalists and TV crews is François Hollande, the presidential candidate from the French Socialist Party. He's here, just like many of his rivals, to pat the animals, test the produce and generally demonstrate that he's in touch with his rural side. Why the enthusiasm? Well, the answer to that question says a lot about how the French see themselves and how they see their politicians. Handshakes, lots of handshakes. Photo opportunities, food tasting, and a lot of livestock to admire. The Paris Agricultural Fair is more than just a stop on the campaign trail, it's an institution, a ritual. This year, François Hollande, the socialist candidate, broke all records with a 12-hour marathon, milking his visit for all its political worth.
Elle a été élue au deuxième tour. Deuxième tour, mais avec une large majorité.
Indeed, in this election year, it's more important than ever, and it's not simply about winning round the rural vote.
Are farmers important electorally? No, and even less so now than before. But they remain more influential than the 3% of the active population they represent. And the French like farmers.
The show attracts upwards of 650,000 visitors, and keeping your head is no easy task. Current President Nicolas Sarkozy knows all about the pitfalls, having been caught off guard in 2008. Despite those risks, they keep coming. Their message, apparently directed at the farmers, is also meant to appeal to voters' values in the heartland and beyond.
I share your values. The values of people who love to work and who want to earn a living from their work. The values of men and women who don't want subsidies, but who want respect.
With the cameras following their every step and documenting pretty much every mouthful, it's also a chance for the political animals to prove they're just like anyone else.
It's all very jovial. So the politicians in front of the camera, they seem to be full of life, and they like that.
The undisputed champion of the show is former President Jacques Chirac. It contributed to his long-standing popularity. But due to ill health, he's missing the 2012 edition for the first time in over 30 years, meaning his title, just like the presidency, is still up for grabs. This week's tweet of the week, staying with this mixture of farming and politics, from the former Prime Minister Jean-Pierre Raffarin. He says the success of the farm show gives the impression that it's a national priority just once a year. A swipe then at all the presidential candidates queuing up to be seen.
En principe, on devrait avoir la catastrophe agricole en 2014-2015. Pour moi, ça c'est la bonne nouvelle de la journée.
We're going to have a chat now with Pierre Priolet, who is a fruit and vegetable producer in the south of France. He's just finished a 40-day walk from the south of France up to Paris, and that's in protest at the prices paid by retailers that leave producers such as himself out of pocket. Now, you were forced to tear up your own orchards to replace them with lettuce. Why was that?
When you lose 130,000 euros a year, you clearly have to make a choice. I chose survival, so I tore up my trees. I couldn't go on.
Throughout that 40-day walk then, Monsieur Priolet, you met with a lot of farmers such as yourselves that do have problems. What was their message?
Above all, the farmers told me about their despair. When your entire income comes from subsidies, you feel kind of alone. They told me how they're fed up with being forced to take that aid and having to follow the rules imposed by getting those subsidies. They really want people to understand that the thing they want most in the world is to be able to earn a living from their livelihood and to stop being forced to sell at a loss.
Now, the agricultural show is, of course, a great showcase for your sector. A lot of politicians and presidential candidates have been here. What's the message for them?
All I think is that every time you don't look reality in the face, you're lying to people. This agricultural show makes me sad. It's supposed to be about farming. They put all the livestock out to bring in the people. But in truth, the show is all about the food industry and money. All the money that's taken away from the producers. It's on show here, and that hurts. That's what I want to stop. Farmers today are above all people who grow food. That's what we're good at. That's what we like to be recognized for. But today, we're not even allowed to earn a decent living from our trade.
Thank you, Monsieur Proulet, for your perspective on that subject, of course, very close to your heart. Of course, it is the election year. That means the agricultural show has attracted a who's who of French politics. Let's take a listen to what the other French farmers here want from their moment in the spotlight. It's known as France's biggest farm, and that means it's France's biggest farm competition. As well as a beauty contest, the prizes are for productivity and behaviour in the spotlight. In the race for the farmers' affection, though, there's only one winner, and that's the former president, Jacques Chirac.
For sure, we were spoilt with Chirac, because he was crazy about the farming world. But I guess we're not so badly off with the one we've got today.
Today's president, Nicolas Sarkozy, got off to a rocky start in his early years visiting the show. But in 2012, accompanying his more down-to-earth campaign, he was up at the crack of dawn to open proceedings.
I was happy about one thing, and that's that there weren't too many bodyguards. It showed he's trusting. I found it low-key. But he wasn't in front of us for very long. He went by very fast. But I saw him, so I'm happy.
Nicolas Sarkozy, though, is in friendly territory. Rural voters have always been conservative, and the latest polls leave little room for doubt. The president is way ahead of the far-right's Marine Le Pen in second, while the socialist François Hollande is a distant fourth. And as candidates big and small make sure their presence is noted, they can't pull the wool over the farmers' eyes.
I don't see what they can see anyway. They're hidden behind a bunch of microphones. We can't even see them, what with the 15 bodyguards. Then they taste a couple of dishes and then they say goodbye.
Personally, I'm not expecting anything. I don't care about politics anymore. It's a lot of pretty promises for not much result in the end.
Prize-winning heavyweights or mutton dressed up as lamb. The task for farmers and voters between now and the election is clear. Can they separate the sheep from the goats, or indeed from the cows? The agricultural show is a great place to get a taste of France, an opportunity seized by many of the visiting politicians. But the campaign does continue on the outside. Let's take a look at what the candidates have been up to in this week's Snapshots. Merci beaucoup.
Marine Le Pen is short of the necessary amount of signatures from local officials to run in the presidential election.
I have 452 signatures, but I still need another 48 to reach 500.
The far-right candidate is now making her case to mayors.
We need 50 brave mayors, Republicans that are committed to democracy, who will stand up and say, we will not tolerate this situation.
The deadline for submitting signatures is March 16th.
It's not in his programme, and it was a surprise for his team. François Hollande's latest measure, a 75% tax rate on earnings over €1 million a year, came out of the blue. The socialist presidential candidate called it an act of patriotism from higher earners. But for President Sarkozy, it smacks of amateurism. And his party said the socialists are reverting to their tax-the-rich habits. Hollande also headed to London this week, where he met with Labour leader Ed Miliband, and he didn't shy away from left-wing policies.
What is your message for the City of London?
We must have regulation.
He had promised a new idea every week, but Nicolas Sarkozy is dusting down some of his old proposals. He's returned to 2007's slogan, work more to earn more. His focus for that, teachers. The president wants them to spend almost 50% more time in the classroom for a 25% pay rise. François Hollande, though, says he prefers to hire more in the teaching sector.
She's been Nicolas Sarkozy's campaign spokesperson for less than a fortnight, and Nathalie Kosciusko-Morizet has already put her foot in her mouth. The former environment minister was asked how much a Paris metro ticket costs. Her guess? €4, more than twice the real price, leaving her facing accusations of being out of touch with voters.
Les Français sont en train de donner leur porte-monnaie à Bruxelles pour sauver un système qui ne marche pas.
L'Europe doit produire la nourriture pour se nourrir elle-même.
Alors moi j'ai dit aux Français une chose très simple. Élu le 6 mai, ça sera fait le 10 juin.
That's all we've got time for in this special edition of Campaign Chronicles. Of course, we won't find out for another 7 weeks which of the presidential candidates has won the hearts of French voters. Do tune in next week for all the latest from the campaign trail on Campaign Chronicles on France 24.